we are here today to talk about some really, really exciting changes that are going to be happening with our family pretty soon. And one of these major changes that is going to be occurring is that our kids are going to be homeschooled for this upcoming school year. For Jackson will be in 3rd grade and Ariana is going to be entering 1st grade. We were we've been contemplating homeschool for quite some time, but for one reason or another, it wasn't something that we thought would work for our family.
No, I think it was hard because obviously we're both working. So, I mean, there's no way that either one of us could take on that type of responsibility if we were both working. So I think that you being able to stay home now, I think that made that possible.
Right. So there are many types of homeschoolers, and some are unschoolers, some are more flexible with their way of structure, and that's all cool and everything, but I felt like for our family we needed some structure, and I felt like our kids learned best in a specific style setting, and with the way our schedules were working and the way our family was growing. I got pregnant with twins, had newborn twins. It just wasn't something that would work for us. But with time and experience now, the children being in school for a few years now, or Ariana, this is her 1st year, and Jackson, this is his 3rd year, we felt like they weren't 100% happy, and it was like life kind of balanced itself out in a way that we could venture off into the world of homeschooling. And we decided to homeschool for a variety of reasons, of which we will be talking to you guys about. The first reason that we decided to homeschool was, I think for me, the most important reason, and it was the fact that my kids, or our kids, were spending more time with their teachers than they were with us. And I know for a lot of parents that's okay. You know, some parents cannot wait to drop off their kids in school. And I will admit, I was one of those people. Like, I was one of those people that I thought I wanted to drop off my daughter in kindergarten, and I was going to be dropping it like it was hot as I was exiting the building.
You dropped a lot of tears, that's what you did.
Yes. I dropped, like, when I left Ariana for the first time, I legit did the ugly cry in front of the school, in front of well over like 500 people. I didn't like that feeling. And as time went on, I hated the fact that Ariana was spending time with a person that was, whether it be inadvertently or advertently, getting more of her character from this person.
I mean, that's normal. When you think about it, she's spending a lot more time, so it's like it's just influence.
Right. So she was getting a lot of her values, a lot of her morals were coming from a person that was not us. And I feel like children should be getting.
Honestly, I don't think so much. I don't even know if it's so much the morals or bad. I think it was just like more like situational, like how did she deal with certain things. It wasn't so much the way that we were kind of teaching her. It was more like how kind of like the school kind of structure it, which the school has their own like goals and their own way of kind of dealing with those type of things, because their goal is different. They're there to like teach those kids within the boundaries of the school. Like the things that we're teaching our kids are things that, you know, are gonna carry with them, not just where they're in school, but it should apply to life in general.
Right.
So I think that to me was one of the biggest things. Is like, how is the biggest influencer or influential people in her life are only gonna teach her things that only apply in that type of setting. So even like everything from like how to handle a bully and all those things are not for the benefit of my kids. It's for what is the benefit of the school. So the way that they kind of go about it, it's not something that is applicable in real life. And I think that to me was like really eye opening to see some of those things happen, and seeing how my kids are handling it, which is very different than the things that we're teaching them. And it's because they're under their, I don't want to say thumb, but kind of under their guidance, right?
Right. So a lot of the times that we would tell them something, the school's ideals would conflict with what we would say.
Yeah.
And things as small as, let's say, like holidays, like Santa, Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, they would say, Santa is real, and we would say Santa's not real. And my kids would be super confused because who's lying? Is my teacher, who is, a really big role model in her life, or is my mom and dad, or my mom and dad lying to me? Like, it's very conflicting for a 5-year-old to understand that sometimes your teacher lies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that brings us to another thing. The reason why, we tell our kids certain things, we have our reasons, We tell our kids, there is no Santa, there is no Easter Bunny, there aren't these fictional things that people celebrate. We have our reasons for saying it.
Well, yeah, it's just because like we believe that the truth supersedes a lot of things, like even tradition. Because at the end of the day, your kid's gonna find out that Santa Claus doesn't exist, right? And then that might influence or somehow affect the way that he views you, or how he views you as, someone who he relies on to tell him the truth. So to me, I just felt like if like these years, especially when they're so young, I want the base to be good, and part of that base is just telling them the truth, and I want them to rely on me that I'm going to tell them no matter how bad or how uncomfortable things are, I'm going to tell them the truth, so they could always rely that no matter what, my parents are going to say the truth to me. And I think that this year was a testament to that, with Ariana having to deal with people challenging her for her saying the truth about the Tooth Fairy, and the teachers and the kids kind of putting her in a place where it's uncomfortable for her, and her having to question whether it was her parents lying to them or the teachers and the kids.
Right. So Ariana, right before Easter, during circle time, I guess they were going to be having some type of event at the school where they kept insisting that the Easter Bunny was going to come, there was going to be a golden egg, and all the kids were super excited. And Ariana decided at that very moment to stand up in the middle of circle time and to say, there is no Easter Bunny. My mom and dad are the Easter Bunny. They're the ones that put the eggs. And there were a bunch of little kids that were devastated. And her teacher did not know what to do. She kept insisting that the Easter Bunny was real. And Ariana was like, okay, well, who's lying to me then? Who's, is it my teacher or is it my mom? And I got called into the guidance office, and my kid was, like, I could see it in her face, she was confused. And in front of her teacher, I did tell her, Mommy will always tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. There is no Easter Bunny. Like Arturo said, I feel like these years really does lay a foundation for what our children are going to be experiencing later on in life. And it's very important for them to have a very solid foundation, because this world is crazy. There's so many things happening in this world. I want them to know that they could always turn to mom and dad and in their home, and this is going to be their safe place, and where they're always going to get the truth,
But I also want them, like, the thing is too, that I want them to feel comfortable going against that wave, against that grain, when someone else is questioning their truth. Because I think they're going to experience that throughout life, where someone's going to call them out or challenge what they know to be true.
Right.
And I think if they exercise that now very young, then they become more comfortable with that. So they're not influenced so easily or peer pressure into things, because they already have that kind of strength built into them.
Right.
I think a lot of times when we lie to our kids very young, we're telling them that it's okay to not stand up for something that you believe in, to stand up for your truth. And that's why I think over time they become so easily influenced and succumb to peer pressure.
Right. And that's a huge thing in school. I feel like a lot of the times when you're dealing with problems in school, it's children that are either being bullied or children being pressured into doing things that they know they shouldn't be doing, but they are so trained to conform to the things that they know shouldn't be, that, you know, doing one more thing, conforming to one more thing is not really a big deal. Another reason why we decided to homeschool is time. I felt like time was just not in our favor. And I felt that I was always rushing against time. I was always rushing our kids in the morning. Arturo can attest to the fact that I am just not a morning person. In the mornings, I was rushing to get the kids out of bed, rushing to get them to have breakfast, rushing for them to get ready, rushing them into the car, rushing them to school, trying to beat traffic, and it was just not pleasant. I was rushing in the afternoon to try to go pick them up on time, like dealing with the whole parking situation in school. And I was spending about 2 hours of my day just transporting kids to and from school. And I was not the most pleasant person to look at during these times because I was stressed out. And I felt like, gosh, you know, if I'm spending...
Things are so much for you to do in so little time. Like, you normally have like about an hour and a half to get 4 kids ready, get them fed, get all their stuff together, get yourself ready, and then get off to school, and then find parking and all that stuff. Like, of course it's going to be stressful because you're trying to do so many things in an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was just crazy. And then not only that, I felt like because they were spending so much time in school, we were kind of left with the like leftover time, you know, the time where they get out of school and by the time they're done coming home, doing homework, eating dinner, showering, brushing teeth, the little bit of time that was left was just like not really quality time.
Yeah.
You know, we would go into their bedroom and like whether read with them, talk about their day or something like that, but it just wasn't quality, enjoyable time. A lot of times Arturo would mention, oh, you know, let's do game night or something like that. But then if we did that, it would cut into their routine of having to get ready for school the next day. And that was a bummer for us because we don't want to just enjoy our kids on Saturday and Sunday. We want to enjoy our kids. We want to enjoy being a family all week, not just...
Yeah, but that even ties into the first thing we're saying about influence. Like, how influential can we be in our kids' life if we have some limited time, and then that limited time is not really quality what we can spend, you know, talking about or discussing issues and things that are important to their development. Like it's just like really everything's fast. Like, oh, let's make sure you eat, you know, shower, do homework, brush your teeth. Like, I felt like it was more like a to-do list than it was, you know, like really quality. Like, let's spend time together as a family. And in the morning, like sometimes I have an opportunity to eat breakfast with them, but everything is just rushed because I have to get myself ready as well, and then help wherever I can. But it's just to me, I just felt like it didn't feel like I was really having that time to really bond with them.
Right.
And I don't remember that being as a kid like that. Like, I don't remember, and I don't know if it's because of the start and like the schedule of their school, because they start at 9 a.m. and they get out at 3 something, that maybe that's the difference between when I was a kid. But I feel like there's not enough time even for them to play. Like, they come home after being in school for, you know, 6.5 hours, and then they get into doing homework for another hour.
Right.
And then it's like they still have to eat, they still have to shower and get them things ready for the next day, which really leaves them for about half hour to 45 minutes to be a kid.
Right.
And then you think about it, they're restricted the whole day in school, and then they coming home with like also a whole to-do list and task in only 45 minutes to play.
Right.
So-
Like Jackson and Ariana every day, like, do we have free time? After they're done with their whole basically to-do list, the first question is, do we have free time? And a lot of times, because of extracurricular activities or just responsibilities, the answer is, sorry, buddy, no, it's bedtime. You got to go to bed because you got to get up early to go to school tomorrow. And I could see it in their little faces, the frustration. It's not fair. I feel like kids need time to just unwind and relax. I mean, people in general need time to be able to unwind and relax so that they can go on with their, their routine for the
And I think all of that stuff plays into the fact of like they start to think of school more as a job than it is like a way to really learn and get more knowledge and those type of things.
right.
You know what
Like
I'm saying?
Jackson has gone as far as saying, well, you go to work and you get paid, I should get paid to
I
go
know.
to school. Like,
Yeah.
he legit views it as a place where he goes, clocks in, and then clocks out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into the next thing. The next reason why we decided to homeschool is academics. Jackson isn't being challenged in a way where he is enjoying school. He tells me he's bored almost every day. And when I ask him, every day I ask him, hey Jax, what did you do today? How was school? What was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? He tells me the best part was I got to do art for art class. He does art once a week. Or the best part of my day, I got to do science, and he does science maybe twice a week. And after a while, it started dwindling because he's been doing, I guess, the same kind of science for well over a year, and he's starting to get frustrated because he wants to move on. He wants to explore other things. And
I think that to me, I think for me, it's like watching that, like such a kid like Jackson that is so inquisitive, always asking questions, and he still does that, but I don't see it as much as I saw it like, even like last year, and I see it like dwindling over time, where he's not so hungry for information and knowledge, and I think a lot of it has to do with the conformity that comes from being in school.
right. Like he is conforming to the idea of just sitting there and being bored because it's what he's supposed to be doing. It's expected of him to just sit there and be quiet, even though he's bored out of his mind.
And it's funny because for me, it's not like my expectations of school. It's not. I don't necessarily care so much about the academics part. I don't care so much that he's learning, this really difficult math or the grade as a whole is like ahead of any other like regional third grade class. I just want him to be challenged, but also I don't want the need of the school to have an effect in his willingness to learn. Like, to me, that's the most important part when it comes to being educated, is wanting to learn, wanting to get that information,
Right.
or learning more, learning new things. And I feel like because of the structure of the school, and this is not I want to make sure people understand, like, I don't feel like it's a particular teacher's fault, or even I just think it's just the structure of the school.
Right.
It's just, and it's not just this particular school. I just think a lot of it is just in the way that it's structured. It's not.
In general,
it's
I
not-
feel like just school across the board, the way that they're structured, they are made so that they can conform to a big group of
I
children.
wouldn't say conform. I would say that it's meant for a larger scale. So
Right.
then you can't. There's no individualization.
There's-
And that's not an expectation I would have for any teacher, to have 20-something kids and expect to teach them all whatever they need individually.
Right.
So I need to, like, for me, like, understanding that, and knowing that the impact that it has on the way my kid is not only learning, but it is like how he's not even willing to want to know more because of it.
Right.
because of that structure.
I mean, he's just gotten so used to the fact that he's just kind of sitting back and just waiting for time to pass because he already knows a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So he's losing interest in learning, and I feel like
I don't know. For me, I feel like that's really like one of the top ones for me,
Yeah.
because I feel like almost everything else you could kind of work around, but I think if that takes a big enough hit, then it doesn't matter what you do academically with a kid. If he's not willing to learn, all you're gonna get with him is he's just gonna want to skate back. He's just gonna want to do enough just to satisfy whoever the authority or figure is.
Right.
So to me, I feel like that's like one of the top things, and I think when I started to see that in Jackson, because he academically he was very hungry, and I'm not saying he's not anymore, but I see it dwindling a little bit as the years go by, and even though we feed him a lot of that stuff at home and we try to keep him engaged, I just feel like we don't have enough time to do that.
right.
And because by the time he gets home, he's exhausted. He's been out since 7. Like, he's been up since 7 o'clock in the morning. I can't expect him to do his homework and then want more.
Right. And then not only that, it would cut into like our time, because then we would want to do fun things, but then we would know that we need to.
There was a cutoff time.
Right. And same thing goes for Ari. Ari in kindergarten right now, it's a ratio of like 1 to 17. And there are times that there is an assistant teacher that does go in, but.
And granted, like Ari has a really good teacher.
Oh my gosh, I love that teacher. I mean, This teacher was Jackson's kindergarten teacher.
I feel like if she gets it, like she understands, at least she gets what I want, what I would like my kids to get out of school, which is not so much focused on the academic part, but she understands, especially at the early age, that it's really about the soft skills, giving them the social skills, paying attention to, like Jackson, when Jackson was in her class, Jackson was very timid.
Right. Like
he didn't have a voice, and she focused so hard on that, and she realized that Jackson academically, he could do a lot of this stuff on his own, and he didn't need that much help in that aspect, but he needed a lot of help in trying to find his voice. And that he was very timid, and he had a hard time really speaking up and standing up for himself. But she knew that academically he was very strong, so she focused less on the academics for him, but focused more on those soft skills and those social skills, and allowing him to have a voice. And within that year, it was a dramatic change in the way that the way he handles certain situations, and being able to just speak and letting his voice be heard.
Right. Like Jackson is very much a people pleaser, and he likes to please the people that are caring for him. And if that means being quiet, Jackson will, be quiet. And his teacher was like, his kindergarten teacher really focused on Jackson finding his voice and voicing things that he wanted and voicing things that he did not want. And I feel like that was such an amazing experience, and I will forever be grateful to that teacher. And I actually requested this teacher for Ariana for her kindergarten year, because she is just, I feel like she just gets it. She understands the struggle and she gets it. But again, my expectation of her only goes to a certain limit, you know what I mean? Like, she can only do so much. And even the other teachers beyond that grade level that Jackson has had,
they had a different, they definitely, the other teachers, I feel like, definitely had a different teaching style.
Right.
And again, I don't discredit no teacher, because I could only imagine, what it would be like to have 20-something kids in one classroom, having to teach them and educate them for that long. So it's not to discredit them. I just think that their style just doesn't fit so much of what we want to teach our kids. And because we have the flexibility to do it, I think it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot to try this homeschool thing
Right.
and seeing if it really works out for our family, especially if we're not really happy with how things are working out. And I'm such a fixer. Like, if something's going wrong, and especially like even we're at kids school, like where we're paying a significant amount of money for them to go to the school, and I'm not completely satisfied. And it's, again, not to the fault of the school or the teachers. It's just the way that it's just structured, because it's a scale, right?
Right.
You gotta have so many kids per teacher ratio in order for the economics to work, right? The finances to work. But I feel like if we can do a better job for them individually, because it's only 2 or 4 kids instead of 19 kids to one. I feel like,
or 20. Well, in Jackson's case, or what would be Ariana's case if she
Yeah.
was there next year, it'd be 26 kids to one teacher, and
so I feel like that puts our success rate pretty high if you think about it, because even if you spend half the time teaching them, because it's such a like a one-on-one type of teaching strategy, that it can't fail,
right.
at least in my eyes. But I'm also open, like I'm very open to everything. So if it doesn't work out, then we'll try something else.
Right.
But I'm very optimistic on like our approach and the way you kind of been setting things up.
Like, I don't think, like, like Arturo said, I'm very open. Like, this is going to be our first year homeschooling, and I'm definitely going to be going through learning curves, and I understand that I'm going to be going through struggles of,
yeah, like everything. I mean, every time you do something new, you're not gonna get it right the first time. There's a learning curve, and there's a learning tax, like I like to call it, and that's kind of part of it. But I feel like even accounting for that, I still think that because we know what we want our kids to get out of it, our focus is not so spread out. As long as our kids continue to want to learn, and they're getting some like stimulus, like what is it called, like a stimuli. Is that what you want to say? A stimulation, or knowledge, or whatever you want to call it. I feel like if they're getting a lot of that, if they're engaged, then I feel like that in itself is worth it.
right.
Because, like I said, if you keep them in a school, no matter how well they try to teach them academically or whatever it is that they want to try, if they're not engaged and they don't want to learn, they're only going to do enough to get by. And I feel like that's a lot of time for anyone to spend not getting their best out.
Right. So, one of the other reasons why I felt like it was really important for us to give homeschooling a try was because of opportunity. I felt like it really presented itself with a lot of opportunity for us to try different things in the way that it would work for us. If we wanted to do more science a particular week, we would focus more on science. If we wanted to do specific research on one thing and really just delve into that for that week or whatever amount of time we wanted to, we could do that. If we wanted to take a trip somewhere, we could do that. We didn't have to conform to the school's schedule.
I think it's also, I like the fact that you can kind of play off of your kid's interests.
Right.
Like Jackson's a perfect example of a kid that really loves science, technology, and I think the school does a decent job, but because his interest in that is so deep, and like he wants it so bad, that 2 times a week it just isn't enough to keep him engaged.
Right.
So I like the fact that in homeschool that you can take any subject and kind of put a little bit of science and a little bit of technology into it to keep them interested.
Right. And I mean, like, you can add English language arts, you can add history, you can add so many things and focus it mostly on science, but he's still getting all of the other subjects intertwined that he's not really missing out, but he's super excited because he's focusing on the things that really interest him. And same with Ariana. Ariana is like obsessed with gymnastics. This child has loved gymnastics since she was 3 years old. And we have to cut out on the time that she gets to focus on gymnastics because of the school schedule. It's
like her team right now, they go Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2.5 hours. But because of our schedule and their school schedule, it makes it really difficult for us to spend 2 days, 5 hours every week in her gymnastics class. So what we've been doing is just bring her once a week, and I feel like if that's something that she really loves and she's really interested in, we should be putting more effort towards that. But because of school and our schedule as it stands now, it makes it really difficult for us.
Right.
As opposed that if she's homeschooling, then it gives us the flexibility to be able to do that.
Right. And another thing is opportunity even outside from our kids. Like Arturo was presented with an opportunity to do a different role in his job, and that opportunity came with a change in time and that he would work. He would go from working first shift to working second shift, and he would be working from from 2 to 11?
Yeah, something like that.
So if he worked from 2 to 11 and the kids are in school from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, he would only see his kids on Saturdays and Sundays.
And then I would not have taken that job, and which is really good for my career to be able to take that opportunity, and also helps it helps us to be able to afford or do other things as well. So I just felt like everything was kind of like happening in a way that kind of made homeschooling such kind of like a perfect fit for us now. Because if you would have told me like even like a year or 2 years ago, I always loved the idea of homeschooling, because I like the fact that it solves a lot of the issues that we sometimes as parents get frustrated with when it comes to our kids' education. I just think that it just makes it really hard to do with the way that, kind of the schedule that most of us carry where both parents work.
Right.
So I'm very blessed to be able to have that opportunity to at least try this out.
Right. I feel like worst case scenario, it doesn't work out for our family. They go back, they go back to school, or we try something different. I feel like we can't fail. You know what I mean?
I think to me, what I love about the way that we approach a lot of the things in general, and especially with our kids, is that we don't conform to the idea that just because something's broken, it needs to remain that way. And again, I understand that there are some times where you can't do anything, and we were in that same boat for 3 years, where it would be really hard for us to really get the flexibility. But that never left that thought of us being able to do this always remained there. And now that the opportunity kind of works out, then we're going to go ahead and try to do it.
Right. So I guess I'm going to wrap this up by saying that all in all, I think that the most important thing for us is for our children not to just be complacent or not to just be getting by. We want our children to thrive, and as a whole, not just academics, not just, we just want our children as a whole to be thriving and happy. And if
I just want them to continuously improve in all aspects of life, whether it's academically, socially, in those areas of interest. Like, I want them not to settle for just being average or just being satisfied with that progress at that time. So I'm always going to push them, and I hope that, not to a point, I like that one of my coworkers had a really good way of kind of explaining it. when I first had Jackson, I had asked him for advice about raising kids, and the way that he kind of put it was just amazing. As I was asking him the question, he kind of knew where I was going, and he started going into a desk looking for something, and I'm like, what is he looking for? And he found this aluminum ruler, and he grabbed the ruler, and he said, to be honest, all you need to do with kids is sort of like this ruler. And what he did, he grabbed the ruler and he pressed it against the desk, and he said, you see how this ruler bends? He said, as long as you bend this ruler and you notice and you pay attention to those areas where you feel like the ruler is going to break, and you bring it back, and as long as that ruler never breaks but you keep on pushing it, then you're always going to be a successful father. And that always stuck with me. So for me, like, I'm always going to push my kids like he kind of pushed on that ruler, and just making sure that it never breaks.
Right. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this a very long video up here.
That's why you can't have a cool star.
I mean, it's kind of cool because you just bring this perspective that oftentimes I find in the videos that I've been watching. It's usually one parent that just kind of like makes the decision, and the guy is kind of just, or the dad, one parent is just kind of tagging along. And this is something that we have obviously been discussing for a while, and it's something that we are both very much on board with, and it's something we came to an agreement together. It's not just him like, let me know what's happening. It's we're both making decisions for our kids, and that's really important for us, for him to be as involved. Obviously because of his work, I will be doing a lot of the things for school academically, but he's also going to be taking part of that. It's not just me. So I thought it would be pretty cool that you guys got to talk to the other side of the art part of the D and art. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. If you guys have any advice for new coming homeschooling families, please feel free to share. It was really awesome talking to you guys and bringing Arturo on board with an actual video.
What do I get for this?
I'll think about it. Anyway, adios guys.